All right, guys, we're going to be looking at finding missing triangle measures here today. And again, this is just really an extension to what we've already been doing. You know us math people, we have to introduce variables in anything we do. So this is just, I'm going to go over about 3 examples here of stuff that's going to be on your practice that you're going to be doing today. No real extensive video, just going through a few examples so that you've got an idea of what you need to do and how to set these up. So let's look at number 1. It says one of my angles is 58 plus x. One of my other angles is 65, and my other angle is 65. So it's asking me to solve for x. So again, we know that all the angles inside of a triangle have to add up to be 180 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this up algebraically as 58 plus x plus 65 plus 65 equals 180. Now that looks like a big, long, daunting problem, but actually it's not. Okay, and if you really think about it, you could have probably did this in a lot simpler manner. But I want to get you used to setting these up like this, and you'll see why here in just a few minutes when we get into something a little bit more complex. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to collect all of these like terms. So you notice I have 58 plus 65 plus 65. These 3 right here are my like terms on this side. I'll go ahead and put my line here. So if you add those up, I end up with 188. So I've got 188 plus x, this little x is kind of hanging out here by himself, equals 180 degrees. So now I need to isolate this x and get it by itself to solve, because that's what it's telling me to do. And it's very important you look at those directions, because the directions do change as you work through this. So now in order to get this x by itself, I need to subtract 188 from both sides. So if I subtract 188 from both sides, on this side it's going to cancel. I'm going to be left with x equals 180 minus 188. So be careful with your signs here. I'm actually subtracting more than I started with. So I'm going to end up with a negative 8. Now you might think initially, wait a minute, an angle can't be negative 8. Well, again, we're not looking for an angle. We're actually looking for the value of x. So x could be a negative number. Now when you get down to one of these ones here in a minute that asks you for the angle, if you get a negative answer, you know there's something wrong, okay? And again, we could substitute this back in. So just think about this just a minute without doing it algebraically, and we'll kind of see if our answers is correct or not. So if 2 of my angles are already 65, then I know that I could go ahead and subtract those from 180. That would equal 130. So that just leaves 50. Well, what can I add to 58 to get 50? Well, again, if I take this negative 8 right here and I put it back in, 58 plus a negative 8 would, in fact, equal 50. So I know that this is the right solution. So every one of these problems that you're going to see, you can go ahead and see number 3 right here. All of these problems, you can set them up this same exact way. Take each angle, add them up together, and set them equal to 180 degrees. So now let's move on to number 7. Number 7 says, find the measure of angle A. So in this case, I'm not just looking for the value of x, but I'm actually looking for this particular angle right here to see what it is. Okay, but I'm actually going to do the same process again. So here I'm going to do 66 plus x, that's this angle right here, plus 75, which is this angle here, plus x plus 51, and all of that has to equal 180 degrees. Again, that looks like it is a huge problem, but it's not really that big a problem at all. All you have to do is collect your like terms, and all of a sudden this will become a much smaller problem. So if I collect all of my like terms here, I'm going to end up with this term, this term, this term. If I collect those 3 like terms, I'm going to end up with 192. You also notice that I not only have 1 x this time, I'll put a square around them, but I have 2 x's this time. So that's 192 plus 2x, I'll go ahead and do my line, equals 180 degrees. Okay? All right, so at this point, I need to go ahead and subtract my 192 from both sides. This will cancel out. and I'll be left with 2x equals 180 minus 192 would be negative 12, I do believe. And now I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides to get my x by itself. X equals negative 12 divided by 2 would be negative 6. So there's my answer, right? Well, sort of. Because now I'm going to use that and put it in for the angle A, because that's actually what it's looking for, is angle A. So I'm going to take this value for x, which x equals negative 6, and I'm going to put it in right here. So if I put in negative 6 plus 51, I'm going to get an answer of 45 degrees. So this would actually be your answer for angle A, would be 45 degrees. Now we're really going to step it up. Again, these problems, all the rest of these in this section will be just like this one. You'll have to set them up, solve for x, and then substitute in. Once you get to the back, you're going to see problems like this. And these are kind of like a challenge problem, but we're actually going to learn some stuff along the way here too. So let's look at number 15. It says find the measure of each angle indicated. And so what you're going to do is you're going to use all the stuff that you have learned up to this point, and it's going to culminate into this moment right now. So again, if you notice right here, we've kind of got a triangle. That's going to help us, because it's going to help us try to figure some things out. But what we're actually looking for is right here. We're looking for this question mark. Well, let's talk first about this angle right here. Let's talk about this guy where I just put the little point. If you notice, I have two straight angles. I have two lines here. And I have this angle that they're telling me, which is 25. So just based on the fact that this is two straight lines and I have 25 kind of nestled inside here, then what do I know about that angle right there? Well, if you remember, we talked about something called vertical angles. And so vertical angles, the law of vertical angles would tell me that this would also have to be 25. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in there because that's going to be very effective. All right, something else that I see is I see this 65 that's right here. And that's talking about this little angle that's nestled right in there. So now could I use that information maybe to help me find this point right here, this angle? Well, again, if you notice, I've got a straight angle right here. So remember that triangles are all based on straight angles. So a straight angle we know is 180 degrees. So if the whole thing here, this whole part right here, I'm going to try to draw real lightly. If that whole part right there is 180 degrees and this part is 65, then what does that mean this angle right here is? Well, I can take 180 degrees minus 65, so 180 minus 65. And if I do that, I'm going to get 125 degrees. So that means this angle right here has to be, actually it's 115. Boy, I made a math mistake. Somebody would have caught me on that, I'm sure. So it's actually 115 degrees. I'm going to show you two different things here. That looks sloppy, so I'm going to erase it again, write it again. It's okay, 115. Okay, so now, just using the law of triangles, again, I know that the sum of the triangle measures inside of a triangle have to be 180 degrees. So now I've got two of those measures. I could figure out what that other measure is. So again, I could add these two up, subtract them from 180, or I could just go ahead and start with 180 and subtract the two amounts from it. Let's go ahead and add them up. A lot of people do it that way, and that's fine. 25 plus 115 would be 140. So now I need to take 180 minus 140, and that is going to equal 40. So that tells me that this angle right here is 40 degrees. Last but certainly not least, you notice how each part of this is helping me solve another piece of the puzzle. Last but certainly not least, I'm looking for this question mark right here. Well, you will notice that I have another straight angle right here. Well, we know that straight angles equal 180 degrees. And so this work helped me to get here. This work helped me to get here. This was just knowing about vertical angles. And so now I could take this line, which is 180, and I could subtract 40 from it, and that will give me the answer for this little question mark, which happens to be 140 degrees. So the answer for this particular question is 140 degrees. Now I want to show you one more little secret here. Anytime you've got a angle that is outside of the triangle, remember we have a triangle right here. Anytime you have an angle that is outside the triangle like this, an exterior angle, you can find the value of that exterior angle by adding together the two remote interior angles. So what that means is, if you notice, I have an angle that's attached to this. I'm not talking about that one at all. You can look at these other two angles that are right here, 25 and 115, and guess what? If you add those two together, we come up with that same answer of 140. That would just save us this one more step right here. If that seemed confusing to you, what I just said, forget I even said it. Just work through it just like we did right there. But remember, just pieces of the puzzle kind of help you to solve the next problem. I'm going to go ahead and do one more little part for you right here. So let's look at 16. And this is going to help you. Again, I'm looking for this question mark, and I'm going to give you the first starting point. The only thing it tells us is that this is 70 degrees, other than the little box down here that means that's 90 degrees. If this is 70 degrees, where else could I also say 70 degrees? And if you said right here, you are correct, because those are vertical angles. So there's your first angle on number 16 as well. Hopefully this has been helpful. And if you need any help, obviously, get in touch with us.